If you enjoyed this podcast, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing to the channel. Sharing it with your friends and family helps spread knowledge, and when we help others grow, we grow too. Thank you so much for listening. Let's dive into the podcast. The first signals, long-delayed echoes, and the birth of suspicion. The crackling sounds filled the laboratory as engineer Carl Sturmer adjusted his radio equipment one autumn evening in 1928. Static was normal, but what came next was not. His signal bounced back to him, but not right away. It returned 3 seconds later, then 8 seconds, sometimes 15. The delay made no sense. Radio waves traveled at the speed of light. They should return almost instantly. Sturmer pressed his ear closer to the receiver. The pattern repeated night after night. Each echo arrived at different intervals, as if something high above was playing with his transmissions before sending them home. Word spread through the small community of radio engineers. Similar reports trickled in from Norway, Sweden, and beyond. The delayed echoes seemed to follow their own mysterious schedule. Scientists called them long-delayed echoes, or LDEs for short. Professor Balthasar van der Pol in the Netherlands received the strangest report of all. His colleague claimed the echoes came back in a sequence that looked almost deliberate. The delays formed a pattern: 8, 11, 15, 8, 13, 3, 8, 8, 8, 12, 15, 13, 8, 8. Someone suggested it might be a map of a distant star system. The scientific community buzzed with theories. Some blamed the moon's surface for reflecting signals in odd ways. Others pointed to charged particles in the upper atmosphere, but none of these explanations fit perfectly. Dr. Ronald Bracewell proposed the most startling idea of all. What if something artificial was capturing their signals? What if an object in space was listening, processing, then responding? The thought sent chills through research labs across Europe. The timing felt significant. Radio technology was still young. Humans had only recently begun sending signals into the void, yet something seemed to be answering back with intelligence. Government officials took notice. Military minds wondered if enemy nations had developed secret technology. But the signals appeared worldwide, beyond any single country's reach. Radio operators began keeping careful logs. They documented each strange echo, noting its delay and strength. The data revealed disturbing consistency. The mysterious responses continued for months, following patterns that natural phenomena couldn't explain. Late at night, alone with their equipment, engineers found themselves asking forbidden questions. Were they the first humans to make contact with something beyond Earth? Or had they stumbled upon evidence of watchers who had been listening all along? The echoes eventually faded, leaving more questions than answers. But the seed was planted. Somewhere above, something had responded to humanity's first tentative calls into space. The Black Knight mystery had begun its long, strange journey through the decades to come. Unexplained sightings, mysterious objects tracked in orbit. The radar screens flickered with green dots in the dim control rooms of 1954. Military operators leaned closer to their equipment, squinting at signals that shouldn't exist. Something was moving overhead in the darkness of space. Something that nobody had put there. During those tense Cold War years, both America and Russia watched the skies like hawks. Every blip on radar mattered. Every object in orbit could be a threat. So when operators began detecting signals from unknown sources, alarm bells rang in government offices across 2 continents. The first reports came from multiple tracking stations. Radar operators described objects moving in polar orbits, circling Earth from north to south. These weren't random space debris floating aimlessly. Whatever they were tracking showed organized movement patterns. What puzzled the experts was simple math. Neither the United States nor Soviet Union had launched anything capable of maintaining such orbits. The technology didn't exist yet. Sputnik wouldn't fly until 1957. Yet here were objects, clearly artificial, racing around Earth at impossible altitudes. Military personnel filed official reports describing objects weighing an estimated 15 tons. For comparison, early satellites would weigh only a few hundred pounds. The size alone defied explanation. How could something so massive reach orbit using rockets that barely existed? Radio operators added another strange piece to the puzzle. They intercepted signals coming from these mysterious objects. The transmissions followed no known communication patterns. Some operators claimed the signals repeated in sequences that lasted hours before starting over again. The Pentagon took notice. Classified meetings discussed the implications. If these weren't Soviet satellites, then what were they? If they were Soviet technology, how had Russia achieved such advanced capabilities in secret? Similar concerns arose in Moscow. Soviet radar stations detected the same mysterious objects. Russian officials faced identical questions about American space technology that seemed decades ahead of known capabilities. Investigation teams studied the data from multiple angles. They confirmed the objects maintained stable orbits despite having no visible means of propulsion adjustment. Traditional satellites require periodic corrections to stay in orbit. These objects seemed to manage themselves. Government agencies issued careful statements. They acknowledged detecting unidentified objects while avoiding speculation about their origins. The official position remained that all trackable objects were either natural phenomena or classified military technology. But behind closed doors, scientists and military advisors struggled for explanations. The objects defied current understanding of orbital mechanics and rocket technology. Their very existence suggested capabilities that surpassed both superpowers. These early sightings created a foundation of mystery that would grow for decades. Each unexplained detection added weight to growing suspicions about what might be watching Earth from above. The Tesla connection, early theories, and eerie coincidences. In the year 1899, something strange happened in a remote laboratory in Colorado Springs. Nikola Tesla, the brilliant inventor known for his work with electricity, sat listening to his radio equipment. The signals coming through were unlike anything he had heard before. Tesla described these signals as regular, organized, and clearly artificial. They didn't sound like the random crackling of lightning or other natural sources. Instead, they seemed to follow a pattern. Tesla became convinced he was hearing messages from another world. His excitement was clear in letters he wrote to friends. He believed these signals came from Mars or perhaps another planet. Tesla thought he had made the greatest discovery in human history. But when he shared his findings with the scientific community, most experts dismissed his claims. The signals Tesla heard were probably from natural sources or early radio experiments by other inventors. His equipment was sensitive, but not advanced enough to properly identify what he was receiving. Still, Tesla remained convinced until his death that he had heard voices from space. Decades later, when stories about the Black Knight satellite began spreading, some researchers remembered Tesla's mysterious signals. They wondered if the famous inventor had been the first person to detect transmissions from this ancient object orbiting Earth. This connection sounds exciting, but there's a problem with the timeline. Tesla heard his signals in 1899. The Black Knight legend didn't emerge until the 1950s. Nobody connected Tesla's work to any satellite mystery during his lifetime. Modern supporters of the Black Knight theory often point to Tesla as early evidence of the satellite's existence. They suggest his genius allowed him to detect something that others missed for 50 more years. But this connection was made long after both Tesla's death and the first Black Knight stories appeared. Tesla was undoubtedly a remarkable scientist. His contributions to electrical engineering changed the world. He invented the alternating current system that powers our homes today. His mind worked in ways that amazed even other brilliant people. However, Tesla also had a tendency to make grand claims that couldn't be proven. He often announced discoveries that turned out to be mistakes or wishful thinking. His Mars signal experience fits this pattern perfectly. The truth is that Tesla's 1899 signals and the Black Knight satellite legend developed completely separately. One didn't lead to the other. Researchers only connected them years later when they were looking for historical support for the satellite theory. This raises an important question about mysterious phenomena. How often do we create connections between unrelated events simply because they seem to fit together? Tesla's story shows how easily fact and fiction can become tangled when people want to believe in something extraordinary. The 1960 Interception. U.S. military identifies an unknown satellite. On a cold February morning in 1960, something strange appeared on the radar screens of a U.S. military tracking station. The operators stared at the glowing dot moving across their monitors. This was not supposed to be there. The object circled Earth in a polar orbit, something no known satellite had ever done before. The Americans had launched Explorer satellites. The Soviets had their Sputnik program. But this thing belonged to neither side. It moved in ways that puzzled the experts. Major newspapers picked up the story within days. The New York Times reported that an unknown satellite was orbiting Earth. The Pentagon stayed quiet. When reporters asked questions, officials gave short answers or said nothing at all. The timing made everything more frightening. The Cold War was at its peak. Both superpowers watched the skies with growing fear. Every blip on radar could mean danger. Every new satellite might carry weapons or spy equipment. Military tracking stations across the country confirmed the sighting. The object was real. It was up there, spinning around our planet every few hours. But nobody could explain where it came from or what it wanted. Some officials whispered that it might be a Soviet spy satellite. Others wondered if their own military had launched something in secret. The silence from Washington only made people more suspicious. Radio operators began reporting strange signals from the same area of space. These were not the usual beeps from known satellites. The patterns seemed different, almost like a code. Amateur radio enthusiasts tried to decode the messages, but found nothing that made sense. Weeks passed. The mysterious visitor kept circling. Military documents from that time, released years later, show how concerned the Pentagon really was. They tracked every movement. They recorded every signal. But they never found answers. The press coverage grew more intense. Citizens demanded to know what was flying overhead. Was it friendly or hostile? American or foreign? The government's refusal to explain only fed more questions. Then, almost as suddenly as it appeared, the object vanished from radar screens. Some said it fell back to Earth and burned up. Others believed it simply moved beyond the range of tracking equipment. The incident left a mark on everyone who witnessed it. Military personnel filed reports that remained classified for decades. Scientists began studying orbital mechanics more carefully. The public started looking up at the night sky with new suspicion. This single event in 1960 became the foundation for one of the most persistent space mysteries of our time. The questions it raised still echo today. High-profile photographs, NASA's 1998 STS-88 mission, and the enigmatic images. The winter of 1998 brought something unexpected from space. NASA's Space Shuttle Atlantis was busy with mission STS-88, working to build the International Space Station. The crew had no idea they were about to capture images that would spark decades of debate. Commander Robert Cabana and his team were focused on connecting the first American module to the station. It was dangerous work, requiring perfect timing and skill. But during their mission, something caught their attention, floating in the darkness above Earth. The cameras clicked. Frame after frame captured a strange, dark object drifting silently through space. The shape looked unusual, almost like a blanket or sheet, but with odd angles and surfaces that seemed to catch the sunlight in mysterious ways. When these photos reached Earth, excitement spread quickly. Here was proof, many claimed. The Black Knight satellite had finally been photographed by NASA itself. The images showed what appeared to be an artificial object, clearly not natural debris or space rock. The photos went everywhere. Internet forums buzzed with speculation. Researchers studied every pixel, measuring shadows and angles. Some saw a constructed craft with panels and structures. Others noticed what looked like deliberate design features. NASA scientists examined the same images with different eyes. They knew exactly when these photos were taken and what the crew was doing at that moment. The object, they explained, was likely a thermal blanket that had come loose during construction work on the station. These blankets protect sensitive equipment from extreme temperatures in space. When one breaks free, it can drift for hours or even days before burning up in Earth's atmosphere. The way it tumbles and reflects light can create very strange appearances. But believers in the Black Knight story were not convinced. Why would NASA be so quick to dismiss the images? The object seemed too large, too structured to be simple debris. Its position high above Earth suggested it had been there for some time. The mission logs showed the crew working with various materials and tools. Several items had indeed been lost or discarded during their activities. Yet the mysterious object in the photos continued to fuel imagination and debate. These images became the most famous evidence for the Black Knight satellite. Even today, they appear in documentaries and articles about space mysteries. The photos are real. The mission was real. But what exactly was floating out there in the cosmic darkness remains a question that divides experts and enthusiasts alike. Public fascination and spirals of theory, unraveling the Black Knight legend. Something strange happened in the 1960s when newspapers first printed stories about mysterious signals from space. People read these tales with wide eyes. The idea of an ancient satellite watching Earth felt both thrilling and frightening. Television shows picked up the story. Radio hosts whispered about it late at night. Each telling added new details that weren't there before. A simple radio signal became a 13,000-year-old alien probe. A piece of space debris transformed into proof of ancient visitors. The internet changed everything. Forums buzzed with theories. People shared blurry photos and called them evidence. Someone would post a NASA image of orbital debris. Within hours, dozens claimed it showed the Black Knight. Facts mixed with fantasy, until telling them apart became nearly impossible. Popular culture fed the mystery. Science fiction movies featured ancient satellites. Books claimed government cover-ups. YouTube videos promised shocking revelations. Each new story borrowed pieces from earlier ones, creating a web of connected tales that felt more real with each telling. Amateur researchers spent hours studying old documents. They found mentions of unexplained signals from the 1920s. They discovered stories of strange objects in polar orbits. These separate events, decades apart, somehow became pieces of one grand puzzle. The Black Knight wasn't just a satellite anymore. It was the center of a vast conspiracy. Different groups had different theories. Some said it belonged to aliens. Others claimed ancient humans built it. A few insisted it was proof of time travelers. These ideas often contradicted each other, but that didn't matter. The mystery grew stronger because no single explanation could satisfy everyone. Media outlets discovered that Black Knight stories attracted readers. Magazines published dramatic articles with ominous headlines. Television documentaries treated speculation as investigation. Even respected news sources sometimes presented theories as possibilities rather than fiction. Internet forums became laboratories for new ideas. Members would analyze every NASA photo, searching for anomalies. They connected dots between unrelated events. A radio signal from 1928 suddenly linked to a photograph from 1998. The connections felt meaningful, even when logic suggested otherwise. The human mind loves patterns. When we can't explain something, we create stories that make sense to us. The Black Knight became a perfect vessel for our deepest questions about space, technology, and whether we're alone. Each generation added their own layer to the legend. What started as confused reports of early space debris became a symbol of hidden knowledge. The mystery persisted not because evidence supported it, but because people needed it to be real. Today, the Black Knight story lives in countless corners of the internet. New believers discover it daily. They read the accumulated theories of decades and see a pattern. The circle continues, growing stronger with each telling. Science responds. Investigations, debunkings, and persistent uncertainty. When scientists finally turned their full attention to the Black Knight mystery, something curious happened. The answers they found were both simple and complex at the same time. NASA released official statements about the famous 1998 photographs. The dark object floating in space wasn't an ancient satellite at all. It was a thermal blanket that had broken loose during a spacewalk. Mission logs showed exactly when it happened. The astronauts had lost their grip on the insulation material, and it drifted away from the shuttle. Radio experts examined Nikola Tesla's mysterious signals from 1899. They discovered something Tesla couldn't have known. The signals matched natural radio waves from Jupiter. The giant planet sends out powerful bursts of energy that travel through space. In Tesla's time, no one understood these cosmic transmissions. Amateur radio operators in the 1920s had picked up similar strange signals. Scientists traced these to a phenomenon called long-delayed echoes. Radio waves bounce off layers in the atmosphere and return to Earth seconds or minutes later. The mystery voices were actually their own transmissions coming back to them. Space agencies published detailed tracking data. Every object larger than a softball gets monitored constantly. Their records showed no unknown satellites orbiting for thousands of years. The computer systems would have spotted such an object immediately. Yet something strange remained. Some scientists admitted they couldn't explain every single report. A few radio signals still puzzled researchers. Certain photographs showed objects that didn't match any known debris. Dr. Sarah Chen, a radio astronomer, studied the old recordings carefully. Most cases have clear explanations, she said during a press conference. But 3 or 4 signals remain unexplained. We need more data to understand them completely. This admission sparked new interest. If scientists couldn't explain everything, what secrets might still be hidden? The public latched onto these small mysteries like treasure hunters finding gold. The truth became clear to researchers. Humans love puzzles that can't be solved easily. We search for meaning in random events. Our brains connect dots that might not actually be connected. Space debris continues to float around Earth. Old rocket parts, broken satellites, and lost tools create a junkyard in orbit. Sometimes these objects catch sunlight in unusual ways. From the ground, they can look mysterious and strange. Scientists keep studying each new report. They use better tools now than Tesla or early radio operators had. Most mysteries get solved quickly, but the few remaining questions keep the Black Knight legend alive in people's imaginations.